To continue discovering new perspectives on the Paralympic sport complexity, the Romanian challenges, and some best practices, that also there are quite a lot of them. I'm very glad to introduce you to a unique panel that we were able to gather here today. Luis Liardi, Head of Communications and External Affairs of the Spanish Paralympic Committee. We've just had the perspective of the international, global Paralympic sports, and now we are focusing more on the Spanish perspective. Julia Luna Robledo, sports commentator and editor of sports events in the National Broadcasting Spanish Corporation. Yolanda Herburu, Chief Sustainability Corporate Affairs Officer of the Sanitas Foundation. Sanitas is the most important health company in Spain. And Javier Pérez Tejero, Director, Chair of Sanitas Foundation Research Group. So you can see we are going to have the perspective from the most important organization of the Paralympic sports in Spain, media coverage, sponsorship practice, and research perspective. So I believe it would be very interesting complement to the previous session as well for you. Okay, so we would like to start with Luis Liardi. Please take your seat. I would also like to invite my student, Jose Peña, who is going to help Luis with the translation into English. And just very brief presentation of the professional background of Luis before assuming this important responsibility as the Communication and Corporate Affairs Director of the Spanish Paralympic Committee. He was also a Paralympic swimmer with impressive record of gold and bronze medals. He was also a media relation manager of the Spanish Paralympic team, so he has a very interesting insights and experience on how to manage this not always easy relation, right, with media. And you can see here the amazing number of Paralympic Games he has been attending. He's also writer, researcher, and speaker of Paralympic sports, inclusion, and disability. And he's also the winner of the 2022 National Arts and Applied Sports Science Award. Congratulations, together with Javier. So we are lucky to have him here with us today, such an important panel. And he's also a former student of the Complutense University of my School of Information Science, so it's an additional pleasure. A long time ago, but that's the most important. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much. I'm going to open your presentation, right?
Hello. First of all, I would like to apologize for my very bad English, and I will, and Jose will help me with the translation. Vamos a ver un vídeo.
We're going to see a video
sobre la participación del equipo paralímpico español en los Juegos de Tokio.
about the participation of the Spanish Paralympic team in the Tokyo 2020 Games.
Bueno, con estas imágenes creo que lo que queríamos transmitir es la significación, la envergadura como una gran competición a nivel mundial que tienen los Juegos Paralímpicos a día de hoy.
With these images, with this video, we wanted to showcase the importance of Paralympic Games and Paralympic sports in a national level.
Y esta gran competición es
And this
así
competition is like this
gracias a la situación a la que hemos llegado después de muchos años de la historia.
thanks to the situation we have arrived after so many years in history.
Hemos llegado a la situación en la que los Juegos Olímpicos y los Juegos Paralímpicos se celebran en la misma ciudad solamente unos días después de los Juegos Olímpicos.
We have reached a situation in which both Paralympic and Olympic Games are celebrated in the same city, the same year, but just some days of difference.
En las mismas instalaciones que los Juegos Olímpicos.
In the same installations as the Olympic Games.
Se utiliza la misma villa olímpica que luego se convierte en villa paralímpica.
With the same Olympic villa that later on is converted into the Paralympic villa.
Y por eso tiene que estar plenamente accesible para ser usada por personas con discapacidad.
And for that reason it has to be fully accessible for people with disabilities to use it.
Se utiliza una misma liturgia en cuanto a ceremonias, al desfile, a la antorcha, a la bandera.
The same procedure is used for both Paralympic and Olympic Games in terms of the flag parade and the opening ceremony.
Muy importante, se utilizan las mismas infraestructuras para las dos competiciones.
Also very important, the same infrastructures as are used for both Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Y para ello estamos hablando de, por ejemplo, las retransmisiones de televisión, la infraestructura del broadcasting.
And we're talking in terms of also television broadcasting,
que da la posibilidad de ofrecer una imagen similar en calidad a la de los Juegos Olímpicos.
which gives the opportunity to give the same quality of image for both Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Pero también estamos hablando de niveles, estándares iguales de calidad en cuanto a venta de entradas, transporte, accesibilidad.
But we're also talking about, in terms of both Olympic and Paralympic Games, there's terms of the sale of tickets and transport, it is exactly the same.
Y todo ello es posible gracias a que los comités organizadores de los Juegos ahora mismo son un solo comité organizador para los dos Juegos.
This can be done because there is only one organizing committee for both Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Esto es así desde que el acuerdo, el Comité Olímpico Internacional y el Comité Paralímpico Internacional llegaron a un acuerdo en el que a día de hoy es obligatorio que cualquier ciudad que quiera organizar los Juegos Olímpicos tiene que organizar también los Juegos Paralímpicos.
This happened after an agreement between the IOC and the IPC that they agreed that all Olympic and Paralympic sports should happen in the same city the same year.
Esto funciona igual para los Juegos Paralímpicos de verano y para los Juegos Paralímpicos de invierno.
This happens for both winter and summer Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Y con esta perspectiva llegamos a las cifras que vemos en pantalla de los Juegos Paralímpicos de Tokio.
With this perspective, we arrive to the data you can see on screen to the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games,
En el que hubo 4.400 deportistas con todos los tipos de discapacidad.
in which there were 4,400 Paralympic athletes with different disabilities.
En los Juegos Paralímpicos a día de hoy hay discapacidad física, ciegos, discapacidad intelectual y parálisis cerebral.
There is physical disabilities, intellectual disabilities, blind people,
And cerebral palsy.
and several, yeah.
Okay. Hubo 160 países.
160 countries.
En Naciones Unidas hay como 200, es decir, que prácticamente todos están ya representados en los Juegos Paralímpicos.
In the United Nations, there are around 200 countries, so most of them are represented in the Paralympic Games.
22 deportes
22 sports.
que se han podido ver en el vídeo y que son en la mayoría versiones para personas con discapacidad de deportes olímpicos.
22 sports that you have already seen in the video we showcased, and they're adapted from the main sports to people with disabilities.
En 12 jornadas de competición.
In 12 days of competition.
Vamos a hablar de la perspectiva de los valores y del grado de conocimiento que se tiene del deporte paralímpico y de aspectos de comunicación.
We're going to talk about communication aspects and value aspects in terms of the Paralympic Games.
Aquí en este gráfico vemos una investigación que hizo el Comité Paralímpico Internacional en el que se puede ver que España está bien situada en el grado de conocimiento que tiene de la sociedad del deporte paralímpico.
In this chart, as you can see, it was done by the IPC, the International Paralympic Committee, and it showcases the relevance of the Paralympic Games in the different countries. And as you can see, Spain is the second after Japan.
Yes, this is the second, and el 86% de la población conoce lo que es el deporte paralímpico.
86% of Spaniards, of Spanish people, know what is Paralympic sports.
Luego se sitúa en un 24% el grado de interés que tienen a través de los medios de comunicación.
And then in 24%, we have the interest of this sport in media outlets.
Puede parecer a lo mejor un poquito bajo el 24% en cuanto a grado de interés, pero por ejemplo el fútbol tiene un grado de seguimiento del 40%, es decir que estamos cerca.
It might not seem as much, 24%, but just so you know, football in Spain has 40%, so it's not that much of a difference between both of them.
Pero hay que decir que este grado de interés es exclusivamente cuando se celebran los Juegos Paralímpicos.
But we also need to know that this 24% of interest is only due when the Paralympic Games take place.
Porque cuando terminan los Juegos Paralímpicos, pues el interés cae estrepitosamente. No sé cómo lo vas a traducir.
So when Paralympic Games end, people are no longer interested in Paralympic sports, really.
Por eso digo, aquí en la pantalla, que lo tengo en español, pero digo que es un fenómeno cuatrienal, porque solamente recoge la atención de los medios de comunicación y de la sociedad cada 4 años.
So that's why we call it a phenomena that happens only 4 years per time, because it's only when the games are celebrated and people are aware of them.
Pero bien es cierto, y lo vamos a ver ahora, que esto es así, pero cada vez es menos, porque el interés por el deporte paralímpico, afortunadamente, se va extendiendo a lo largo del resto del ciclo de 4 años.
This is a reality that only people are interested in Paralympic Games every 4 years, but as time passes, people are getting more and more interested about them.
Así lo podemos ver en estos gráficos que comparan el interés que hubo en el resto de ciclos de 4 años, en el ciclo que acabó en 2012 y luego el que acabó en el 2016. No tenemos datos todavía más cercanos.
We can see it in this chart in comparison between the cycle of 2009-2012 and 2013-2016, and the interest has gone up.
En el que la presencia de la información en los medios de comunicación de deporte paralímpico pues ha ido creciendo bueno, aquí la referencia es una medida en valor publicitario equivalente, que es una cosa de publicidad, digamos, pero nos sirve de referencia para ver que ha subido el interés de los medios de comunicación hacia el deporte paralímpico, pues de 42 millones a 61 millones.
The presence of the Paralympic Games and Paralympic sports has increased, as you can see in the chart on the left. In terms, this is a chart talking about advertising, and as you can see, the value of advertising has changed from 42 million to 61 million in just a few years.
Y llegamos por ejemplo, a lo que es más reciente, los Juegos Paralímpicos de Tokio. Ahí pone Río 2016, pero es Tokio 2021. 2020.
In the next slide.
Son grandes cifras de la cobertura de los Juegos Paralímpicos de Tokio.
We can see some data about Tokyo 2020 Games. You can see it says Rio 2016, but it's not true. It says Tokyo 2020.
En España, bueno, lo más destacado es que 12 millones de personas contactaron con las retransmisiones de Radio y Televisión Española.
In Spain, 12 million people watched the transmissions of Radio Televisión Española, which is the Spanish national broadcaster.
Hubo 25.000 informaciones en medios de comunicación, prensa, internet, radio y televisión durante el periodo de los Juegos.
There were 25,000 information-related articles and impacts related with the Paralympic Games.
Las redes sociales los perfiles del Comité Paralímpico Español en redes sociales registraron 34 millones de contactos.
34 million impacts were recorded on the social media of the Spanish Paralympic Committee.
Y eso solo los perfiles del Comité Paralímpico Español. En otros perfiles, pues de medios de comunicación potentes como Marca, como RTV.es, etcétera, pues se multiplicará por muchísimo.
And that was only related to the Spanish Paralympic Committee, but in media outlets, social media, such as Marca, which is a Spanish sports newspaper, that data would be much, much higher.
Y en cuanto a los periodistas que fueron allá a cubrir los Juegos, pues fueron 39, que pueden parecer pocos, pero fueron 39 valientes, porque todas las medidas de anti-COVID que hubo en Tokio fueron muy duras.
And 39 courageous journalists went to Tokyo, and it might seem as not a great number, but in terms of COVID-19 and the pandemic, it was a really important number.
Centrándonos en televisión española, que aquí tenemos a una de las protagonistas de estas retransmisiones, a Julia, emitieron 197 horas a lo largo de la programación.
Talking specifically about the national television channel in Spain, which we have the pleasure to have a presenter from that channel here with us, there were 197 hours of broadcast of the Paralympic Games.
Los 12 millones de contactos que antes hemos visto son 10,8 en teledeporte y el resto en RTV Play.
The 12 million impacts were around 10.8 in the sport channel of the national sport channel, and the rest of them were in La Uno. No, La Uno.
No, en RTV Play, en
and
internet.
in the internet were the rest of the impacts.
Platform. Y bueno, pues la ceremonia de inauguración pues tuvo un pico de audiencia porque fue a través de la 1 y tuvo pues 400.000 espectadores de media.
And the inauguration ceremony had a peak in audience because it was broadcast in the first channel, in the main channel of the Spanish national TV.
Ahora vamos a ver unas diapositivas en cuanto a valores. Son producto de encuestas que se han hecho por distintos medios, que no voy a extenderme aquí en la fuente, pero son cómo percibe la sociedad española, y la sociedad internacional, el deporte paralímpico.
And we're going to see some slides related to the values that the Spanish society perceive after an interview about what they perceive, what they think about Paralympic games and Paralympic sport.
Los principales valores asociados al deporte paralímpico, según este tipo de encuestas en nuestro país, son los que se ven en pantalla, que son superación, sobre todo superación, esfuerzo, orgullo.
The main values that the Spanish society perceive for them to be related with Paralympic sports are the pride to be a Paralympic athlete, the courage to overcome challenges, emotion, effort,
Pride. Y luego tenemos el siguiente, es lo mismo, pero es una encuesta a nivel internacional que hizo el Comité Paralímpico Internacional y además que lo vamos a comparar con la percepción que se tiene de los Juegos Olímpicos.
And then we have exactly the same interview, but done this time at an international level by the IPC.
And here we can see facts about the Paralympic values, very positive image associations. The first of all, disable is logical, but inspiring, determination. We think son todo valores muy positivos.
They're really positive values.
En el siguiente comparamos la imagen de los paralímpicos con la de los olímpicos.
And here we compare after the interview the image, the values associated with the Paralympic Games and the Olympic Games.
Y ahí, mientras en el mundo paralímpico siguen siendo muy puros, muy positivos los valores.
And in the Paralympic world, these values are really positive, they're really pure.
En el campo de los olímpicos ya vemos algunos datos un poco más duros, como es doping.
And in the Olympic world, we can see that it's not that positive. We can see the word doping there.
Y en la siguiente lo vemos más claramente, como en el caso de los olímpicos, pues vemos corruption, mientras que en los paralímpicos pues es inspirational, unique, eye-opening.
So we can see here, as in the previous slide, the values associated with the Paralympic Games are mostly positive, but compared with the Olympic ones, you can see corruption, political or commercial.
¿Me estoy extendiendo mucho, quizá? Bueno, de todas... No, si no es por eso, es por los compañeros. Bueno, pues no, ya me queda poco.
I will answer, no worries.
Bueno, lo que queremos transmitir, o sea, las funciones que para nosotros tiene la difusión social del deporte paralímpico, por lo menos desde lo que trabajamos desde el Comité Paralímpico Español.
The main objectives that we have with inside the Paralympic Committee of Spain to transmit are.
Nuestra principal obsesión es difundir los valores olímpicos para crear un cambio de conciencia en la sociedad.
We want to really transmit Paralympic values to make a change in society.
el ejemplo de los deportistas paralímpicos creemos que es el más importante para servir de plataforma para el resto de personas con discapacidad.
The example of the Paralympic athletes, we believe, is the most important in order for other disabled people to believe in themselves.
Y además de esa difusión de valores y de ejemplos de vida,
And besides those values and examples of life,
nos sirve también como herramienta de promoción deportiva para animar a todas las personas con discapacidad y a todas las personas en general a hacer deporte.
we also use the Paralympic Games as a tool for disabled people, also people in general, to practice sport.
Nuestra estrategia de comunicación tiene ese fin que hemos dicho de difundir los valores del deporte paralímpico a través de los medios de comunicación principalmente.
As we just said, that is the objective of our communication strategy, to broadcast these values through the media outlets.
Pero tiene también un segundo objetivo y es que el deporte, que los deportistas paralímpicos puedan entrenar en las mejores condiciones posibles. Y ahora explicaré cómo.
But the second objective of our aim is also to, with this media diffusion, to allow Paralympic athletes to train in the most appropriate and proper conditions.
Para que los deportistas tengan estos medios para poder entrenar, contamos con el apoyo de patrocinadores.
For them to do so, to train in these aim conditions, perfect conditions, we count with sponsors.
Patrocinadores como los aquí presentes, Sanitas, en la persona de Yolanda Arburu.
Sponsors like Sanitas, with Yolanda Arburu.
Y que lo hacen por responsabilidad social de la empresa.
And they do it for social responsibility of the company.
Pero también por el grado de visibilidad que les da el deporte paralímpico.
But also for the important awareness that they receive thanks to Paralympic sports.
Y para compensar en cierta medida ese apoyo que nos ofrecen,
and to balance this aid, this help they give us,
nosotros lo que intentamos es, a través de los medios de comunicación, ofrecer unas contraprestaciones en presencia de las marcas.
We try to offer through this media outlet broadcast some compensation for the brands they sponsor us.
Con el objetivo de fidelizar a estos patrocinadores y que estén siempre contentos con nosotros y continúen muchos años, como es el caso de Sanitas.
With the objective to actually make these businesses happy. Yeah, loyal and continue with this sponsor for many years.
Aunque luego supongo que tendremos tiempo de comentar alguna cosa más, quería destacar que el caso de Sanitas, además de apoyar el equipo paralímpico, hace un montón de cosas más en favor del deporte de personas con discapacidad.
We'll talk about this later, but I just wanted to say that Sanitas is very important for us, not only in terms of Paralympics, but also a lot of other contributions they make in terms of Paralympic sports.
Todas nuestras acciones de comunicación las englobamos sobre un paraguas que es Paralímpicos, para lo cual creamos incluso este logo, y a todo elemento de comunicación que hacemos lo hacemos bajo este paraguas de Paralímpicos.
All our communication actions are made under this brand, Paralímpicos, Paralympics, and we created this logo in order to do so.
Porque creemos que además pues refleja muy bien las personas, los deportistas que son los protagonistas de toda nuestra política de comunicación.
Because we believe this reflects perfectly onto the athletes, which are our basis, our pillar for growing.
Y ya para ir acabando,
and to finish up with,
solamente quería pues reflexionar sobre la importancia de que haya estrellas paralímpicas para que el deporte sea más conocido.
I want to talk a little bit about the importance of Paralympic stars, Paralympic VIPs, if you can call them.
Lo que no es nada sencillo en un deporte como el nuestro, deportes minoritarios, no es nada sencillo configurar estrellas paralímpicas.
Which is not easy at all to have a Paralympic star in these types of minority sports.
Para llegar a ser una estrella paralímpica se necesita Yo creo que al menos dos, si no los tres muchas veces, de estos tres aspectos que pongo aquí.
In order to become a Paralympic star, you need at least 2 of these factors we're going to see now.
Porque si tienes extraordinarios resultados deportivos que tienes que tener para ser una estrella paralímpica,
If you have brilliant sports results to become a Paralympic star,
muchas veces no es suficiente.
it might not be enough.
Siempre en el caso de los deportistas paralímpicos, lo que es imprescindible es que además tengan una historia vital o una actitud ante la vida que sea interesante o que sea brillante.
So as we were saying, to become a Paralympic star, you don't need just really, really brilliant results in the games, but you also need a life story behind that is interesting and appealing to other athletes and other people.
Afortunadamente, los deportistas paralímpicos están sobrados de historias interesantes y actitud ante la vida activa.
Thankfully, most, if we can say, all Paralympic athletes have the second aspect, which is a vital story behind and interest in what they do and care for them.
También funciona muy bien en España, al menos que los deportistas tengan un arraigo local concreto, y ahí pues muchas veces con menores éxitos pues la gente es muy conocida en su ámbito local, que no sea Madrid y Barcelona.
And in Spain also, in particular, it is really important, the local pride. Like if an athlete is not from just Madrid or Barcelona, or it's from a small town like, I don't know, Cáceres, he will be, even if his result is not as good, he will be highly recognized there.
Y afortunadamente con este cóctel, con estos ingredientes, pues
With these ingredients,
tenemos algunas estrellas paralímpicas a día de hoy
we have some Paralympic stars
en España,
in Spain,
que además colaboran a que el fenómeno sea cada vez menos cuatrienal.
which they help that this phenomenon of the Paralympic Games is not only every 4 years.
Es decir, estas personas que veis en pantalla, ahora hablaremos brevemente de ellas, pues están ya muy presentes en muchos eventos, en muchos medios de comunicación, no solo durante los Juegos Paralímpicos, sino a lo largo del resto de 4 años.
These Paralympic stars, as you can see on the screen, are not only present on the media outlets during the Paralympic Games, but also in the rest of the time period.
Sin duda la deportista paralímpica más conocida es Teresa Perales, que veis aquí a la derecha, nadadora, 27 medallas en los Juegos Paralímpicos.
Teresa Perales is probably the most known Paralympic star in Spain, which is the girl you can see in the left. She won 27 medals in the Paralympic Games.
Y ha sido el último premio Princesa de Asturias de los deportes.
And she received the last Princesa de Asturias award in sports.
Tenemos a la triatleta en la parte de arriba a la derecha, triatleta Susana Rodríguez.
We have the triathlete, Susana Rodríguez,
Que ha sido,
upper right.
que es ciega, es médico en Vigo.
She's blind, but she's also a doctor in Vigo, in Galicia.
Estuvo, además de entrenar muchísimo para conseguir medalla de oro en los Juegos de Tokio, estuvo a pie de batalla en el COVID, durante el COVID.
Besides training a lot of hours for the Tokyo 2020 Games, she was helping in the pandemic
Como médico,
as a doctor.
que es, y ha sido recientemente portada en la revista Time.
And she was showcased in the Time magazine in the cover.
También tenemos otra triatleta que es ya muy conocida, Eva Moral, que es la que veis en el medio.
We have Eva Moral at the middle, which is also another triathlete that is really, really known.
Que acaba de ser madre y se va a reincorporar a los entrenamientos, pero ya.
She just had a child and she's gonna get back to training really, really soon.
Y la estrella emergente más importante que hemos tenido en Tokio 2020 ha sido Adiaratu Iglesias.
And Adiratu is the most recent Paralympic star in the Tokyo 2020 Games.
Es una atleta que como ha sacado 2 medallas de oro y con eso ya sería suficiente para que fuera una estrella, pero es que además tiene la historia interesante de haber nacido en un país de África en el que por ser albina su vida corría peligro.
And she is an athlete that she won 2 gold medals. But not only that, she was born in an African country, and she's I don't know. She has white hair, albinism. Albinism. So it's really important, not only the medals, but also where she comes from and the vital story that she has behind.
Yes, because y eso que creo que es de Mali, y allí la gente con albinismo pues corre incluso peligro de que acaben con su vida.
And she's from Mali, and people with albinism in Mali, they can end up with their life.
Entonces fue adoptada por una familia española y aquí ha desarrollado su carrera deportiva.
So she was adopted by a Spanish family, and she has developed her career here in Spain.
Y esto es todo lo que quería contar de momento.
And this is everything I wanted to tell you for the moment.
Okay, so our next presenter is Julia Luna. Julia has an impressive experience as a sports journalist, just making a very consistent summary of her CV. It was very difficult to point absolutely everything. Media coverage of Summer and Winter Olympics and Paralympic Games from Barcelona 1992 until very recent, latest editions. UEFA European Champions, the Soccer World Cup, the Champions League Finals, World and European Swimming and Paralympic Swimming Championships, World Athletic Championship, World Handball Championship. So she has a unique perspective on how the coverage, media coverage of Paralympic sports is really performed, what are the key barriers yet, and maybe it's also the answer to your previous question, Clara, why we cannot see that much Paralympic sports yet on the TV screen. We talked a lot about that, and of course thank you very much for joining us today, and we are looking forward to hearing your experience. And she's also alumna of the Complutense University from our School of Information Science. Thank you very much.
Hola, muy buenos días a todos. Como bien dice Olga, yo soy periodista. Llevo 34 años trabajando como periodista deportiva en Radio y Televisión Española, que es la televisión pública de España. Perdón.
Hi, good morning to everyone. As Olga just said, I'm a journalist at Radio Televisión Española, which is the national broadcaster company here in Spain. I've been 37?
34.
34 years.
Soy mayor, pero no tanto, ¿eh?
I'm not at all for the moment.
Bueno, no, que has dicho que es la televisión pública de España.
Sí. It's the Spanish public television.
Bueno, y es la televisión que ha dado como broadcaster todos los Juegos Paralímpicos.
And it's the television that has given in Spain the broadcasting of all the Paralympic Games here in Spain.
Os quiero contar mi historia personal, mi acercamiento al deporte paralímpico después de muchísimos años y responder un poco a vuestras inquietudes de en qué situación está la cobertura del deporte paralímpico en España, por qué no se da tanto, por qué no hay tanta visibilidad, cuáles son los problemas. Yo quiero, bueno, pues que mi intervención sea un poco práctica.
Okay, so I want to share with you my personal story after all these years covering the Paralympic Games and why these Paralympic Games don't have the enough importance and relevance in Spain. And I want to share with you these thoughts and also for you to to talk with me about what are your beliefs in terms of these sports.
Bueno, la historia del deporte paralímpico en España, como bien ha contado Luis, está íntimamente ligado a los Juegos Paralímpicos, ¿no? Yo creo que hay que separar lo que son Juegos Paralímpicos y el deporte paralímpico.
The Paralympic sports here in Spain or also around the world is just linked with the Paralympic Games. As we just mentioned earlier, only every 4 years these Paralympic Games and sports are mentioned, and I believe there should be a real difference between Paralympic sports and Paralympic Games.
Los Juegos Paralímpicos es el buque insignia del deporte paralímpico en España, es el que está tirando de la visibilidad del deporte paralímpico, pero como os podéis imaginar, si los Juegos Paralímpicos tienen una visibilidad, digamos, reducida o normal a día de hoy, no se puede decir lo mismo del resto de competiciones de deporte paralímpico fuera de esos Juegos.
The Paralympic Games are the one that actually impulse the rest of Paralympic sports. But as you can imagine, without these games, the rest of the Paralympic sports will not be showcased, will not be that relevant.
El deporte paralímpico, los Juegos Paralímpicos arrancan televisivamente en Barcelona 92, fueron la primera vez que se retransmitieron a todo el mundo los Juegos Paralímpicos, por lo tanto yo creo que lo habrá comentado también Xavier González en la ponencia, lo que supuso los Juegos de Barcelona para el deporte paralímpico, sobre todo en España.
The broadcasting of the Paralympic Games started here in Spain, in Barcelona 92, the Games of Barcelona 92. And from that moment onwards, it became much more important, and it started here in Spain.
Los siguientes grandes juegos fueron los de Pekín en el 2008, fueron los grandes Juegos Paralímpicos, supuso el impulso definitivo a los Juegos.
Then in Beijing 2008, there were these big Paralympic Games that finally were this impulse that the Paralympic Committee needed in order for the games to be known worldwide.
Y los terceros grandes juegos, desde el punto de vista televisivo, fueron los de Londres en el 2012, que supusieron el boom definitivo de los juegos y, sobre todo, otra mirada mucho más humana, más cercana, por la cobertura que hizo Channel 4, el broadcaster británico, mostrando pues las vidas personales, haciendo un gran despliegue, utilizando algo que no se había hecho todavía a periodistas con discapacidad, que eso supuso pues otra manera, ¿no?, de ver el deporte paralímpico.
And then after Beijing 2008, they came the Games of London 2012, which they were the boom for the Paralympic Games, especially in terms of broadcasting, because Channel 4, a television channel from the UK, they broadcasted the games in a more human way, having disabled people and disabled athletes, the ones that they actually were in charge of showcasing these games and telling them to the rest of the people.
Sí, se dieron 300 horas de emisión en mi empresa. Han sido los juegos con mayor cobertura en cuanto a emisión, pero os cuento todo esto porque es aquí donde yo aparezco. Yo tengo 34 años de experiencia, he hecho muchísimos deportes, he hecho mucho fútbol, atletismo, balonmano, todo el mundo me conoce por la natación porque soy la comentarista habitual de la natación olímpica y paralímpica, algo que me siento muy orgullosa, por cierto, pero no había hecho nunca deporte paralímpico, y después de ver los Juegos de Londres, pues a mí se me despertó una inquietud muy importante.
Here in the Spanish National Channel, we broadcasted more than 300 hours of these Paralympic Games, and you might be thinking, why am I talking about this? Well, here in 2012 is where I came into the Paralympic sports, the Paralympic Games, because before of this, I was also a commentarist in other sports such as volleyball,
No, balonmano,
balonmano,
natación.
swimming, handball. But after the 2012 Games, I discovered Paralympic Games, and I felt really, really interested about this. And also, she is a really famous commentarist here in Spain, both Paralympic and Olympic swimming.
Bueno, ¿qué ocurre? Que mi empresa es una empresa pública y entonces estaba tratando y trata los Juegos Paralímpicos y el deporte paralímpico como un servicio público. Es decir, se limita a hacer una cobertura para que se vean los Juegos Paralímpicos. No por interés deportivo, no como el interés deportivo que puedan tener unos Juegos Olímpicos, sino por dar ese servicio público. En esas estamos todavía. O sea, mi empresa, como la mayoría de los medios de comunicación en España, todavía no han descubierto la enorme riqueza y el gran potencial que tiene el deporte paralímpico.
My company, which is a public company, is the Spanish public broadcaster of television and radio. We wanted to showcase these games, not from a commercial point of view, but as a public service in the interest of citizens, because we believe that these games are for everyone, and we are the best representatives for doing that because we are a public company.
¿Qué ocurre? Que es muy difícil cuando el interés de tu empresa y el resto de los medios de comunicación en España no muestran ese interés por dar deporte paralímpico. Deporte paralímpico es más deporte. Entonces era complicado, he tenido, digamos, que pelear por entrar en el deporte paralímpico, porque como bien ha explicado Luis, los Juegos Olímpicos y Paralímpicos comparten escenario, instalaciones, casi fechas, porque son a continuación, y mi empresa se vuelca habitualmente con los Juegos Olímpicos y todo el personal, todos los redactores, periodistas, presentadores, se dedican a los Juegos Olímpicos. Y lo poquito que sobra de periodistas, pues son los que cubren los Juegos Paralímpicos. Y a mí nunca me tocaba, porque yo tengo la suerte de tener un deporte principal como la natación, y eso me hacía estar durante un mes volcada con la natación olímpica.
Okay. In the Spanish national panorama, in terms of media outlets, it was very difficult for us, because the other channels that are private, they don't worry about this public service we were talking about, these Paralympic Games. They are just worried in sponsorships and things like football, which there's a lot of money behind it. So it was really difficult for us to actually showcase and broadcast these games at the same time as other channels are broadcasting other types of sports, which might be more attractive for the audience. So the journalists, at least in the Spanish national channel, they're mostly focused on the Olympic Games, because it's where most of the people are attracted to. And only a small group of journalists, I think it was 39, as we just mentioned earlier, are focused on Paralympic Games. And I have the opportunity and the chance to be part of swimming, the Spanish swimming commentaries team, that is the Paralympic sport that has the most traction, both Olympic and Paralympic. But besides this sport, it's not that easy to find a journalist to actually cover this, because for the audience it's not as interesting as the Olympic Games.
Bueno, después de quedarme impresionado de esos Juegos Paralímpicos de Londres, pues llegaron los Juegos de Río y mi empresa apostó por hacer un programa resumen, algo muy importante para llegar al gran público, ¿no? Para que el deporte paralímpico sea muy conocido. Es muy importante este programa resumen que hacemos habitualmente desde el principio en los Juegos Olímpicos, pero que no habíamos hecho en los Juegos Paralímpicos. Empezamos a hacerlo a partir de los Juegos de Londres. Yo tuve la gran suerte de comenzar en los Juegos Paralímpicos en Río.
So after the London 2012 games, the Rio 2016 games came, and it was the first time we decided to make a special program in order to recover and recap the previous Paralympic Games. And I had the chance and opportunity to be a part of this review of the games of the previous years.
Y empecé a conocer a deportistas paralímpicos, la mayoría nadadores, obvio, Xavi Torres, súper conocido en España, un nadador que además trabaja en Eurosport comentando la natación como especialista, la natación convencional, digamos, como especialista técnico, Enamet, John Santacana, Teresa Perales, Tony Ponce, en fin, mi vida cambió cuando los conocí a ellos.
And I started to meet, of course, a lot of Paralympic athletes, a lot of them from swimming, as you can imagine, such as
Xavi Torres.
Xavi Torres.
Vale. Xavi Torres, Enamet. Sí. Plus marquista mundial de 100 mariposa todavía, logrado en Pekín 2008. Tenemos plus marquistas mundiales de natación.
And he obtained a really important mark in ¿cómo se llama? Backflip, butterfly swimming.
Bueno, Teresa Perales, que como comentaba Luis, es la gran deportista paralímpica española. John Santacana, un esquiador ciego.
Teresa Perales, as we have seen before, that is a really important Paralympic star here in Spain.
John Santacana, esquiador ciego.
That is a blind skier.
Y Tony Ponce, que es uno de los grandes nadadores de la actualidad.
And Tony Ponce, which right now is a very important Paralympic swimmer.
Bueno, decía que ellos me cambiaron la vida, el conocerles, el hablar con ellos. Todavía mantengo, algunos están ya retirados, pero sigo manteniendo contacto con ellos. Y me enseñaron sobre todo el deporte, algo que hasta entonces yo no había visto.
And they completely changed my life. Some of them right now are retired, but I still have contact with them. And they showed me something which I was not really aware of, which was sport, Paralympic sport.
¿Por qué? Porque se pone mucho el foco en la discapacidad y no en el deporte, no en la competición deportiva.
Because it's the focus of the competition is most of the time focused on the disability, but not of the dynamics of the sport they're actually playing and doing.
Y yo descubrí ese deporte y por eso me enamoré del deporte paralímpico. Quiero decir que cuando os preguntáis por qué hay tan poca repercusión o tan poca visibilidad del deporte paralímpico, decir que para un profesional, para un periodista, no es nada fácil informar y cubrir deporte paralímpico. En primer lugar, nos encontramos varias barreras. Primero, el lenguaje.
A ver, que se me ha ido.
Sí, que para los periodistas españoles no es nada fácil
not easy at all
cubrir o informar sobre deporte
paralímpico. To cover and to inform about these Paralympic sports.
Porque tenemos que superar también varias barreras.
Because we need to overcome some barriers.
La primera con la que te encuentras,
the first one that you find,
es el lenguaje.
Is language.
¿Cómo hablar para no herir, para bueno, qué palabras utilizar?
Which words to use to not discriminate or feel that someone doesn't belong in place.
Bueno, cuando por fin te haces con esto, con el lenguaje,
when you learn this, how to speak with the language,
llega la siguiente barrera.
We have the next barrier.
El desconocimiento.
Which is not knowing.
Porque en España, y yo creo que también ocurre en muchos países del mundo, apenas hay información.
Because in Spain and most countries in the world, there's no much information about Paralympic sports.
Claro, ¿dónde encuentras esta información?
Where do you find this information?
Porque
Because
sí, yo cuando comencé a comentar balonmano, natación, atletismo,
when I started to be a commentarist about swimming, handball, and these sports,
te vas a internet y tienes un montón de información.
you can just Google the information.
Pero ¿dónde encuentras la información del deporte paralímpico?
But where do you find the information in terms of Paralympic sports?
Vale, yo que he empezado a comentar, empecé con Luis a comentar en los mundiales de natación paralímpica, me encontré con el primer gran problema.
I started being a commentator with Luis in the World Competition of Swimming, Paralympic Swimming.
¿Dónde están los récords de España?
Where are the Olympic records of Spain, the Paralympic records of Spain?
Porque yo cuando comento natación convencional voy a la Federación Española de Natación y ahí tengo mi récord, los récords.
Because when I have to be a commentator for Olympic swimming, regular swimming, I just go to the Spanish Federation and I have the list of the records.
Pero no hay una federación de natación paralímpica. Hay 5 federaciones, ¿no, Luis?
But there's not just one federation of Paralympic swimming. There are 5 federations of Paralympic swimming.
Y al comienzo, cuando yo comencé, la mayoría de las federaciones, quitando la de ciegos y de discapacidad física, que son las únicas que tenían sus récords sin actualizar, el resto no aparecía.
And most of the federations didn't have any records besides the Blind Federation and the Physical Disability Federation. And they had the records, but they were not updated.
Y estoy hablando de algo muy básico como son los récords nacionales.
And I'm talking about something really basic, really important, which is the national records.
Imaginaros lo que es buscar otro tipo de información.
Imagine looking for this type of information.
Marcas personales, entrenadores, centros de entrenamiento.
Imagine looking for this information such as personal marks, who is training each person. It's really impossible to find.
Bueno, pues este es estamos en ello, digamos.
We're
Este es el
still on
reto
it.
que tenemos por delante, el mejorar esa información. El Comité Paralímpico hace una grandísima labor, pero todavía queda el tema de las federaciones. Ahora mismo se está normalizando el deporte paralímpico y se está yendo hacia la inclusión o la integración, mejor dicho, de cada deporte en su federación.
We're working hand by hand with the Paralympic Committee, the Spanish Paralympic Committee, in order to make this situation better and to include each sport with each federation.
Hay algunas federaciones en España ya integradas, caso de la hípica, del ciclismo, Luis, tenis de mesa.
We have some federations that are already included, such as table tennis, horse riding.
Y yo creo que ese es el camino. Los grandes deportes como son atletismo, natación, baloncesto, todavía hay que ir a cada federación de discapacidad para encontrar algo de información, pero la información que encuentras es prácticamente nula.
And we believe that's the way to go, to integrate each sport, which is federation. But at the moment, the big sports such as basketball, swimming, you need to go federation, to lead information federation for federation, the small ones, in order to retrieve this information from each athlete. And we believe that the way to go is to have just one federation for each sport.
Bueno, así se está trabajando también en cuanto a federaciones internacionales y yo creo que es un camino correcto.
And also international federations are working in this sense to integrate sport with just one federation, and we believe it is the way to go.
Bueno, pues después de pegarte con el lenguaje, después de superar la escasa información, te encuentras con el siguiente problema, ¿no? ¿Cómo se juega esto, no?
And after all of these barriers, the language, finding the information, you have the another barrier, which is, how do you play this?
Claro, porque es un deporte que no tiene nada que ver con el deporte convencional.
It's a sport that has nothing to do with conventional sport.
Empiezas a pegarte con las clases. Hay un montón de clases, dependiendo del deporte que hagas. Yo en mi caso la natación, hay como 14 clases diferentes de discapacidad.
Depending on the sport, there are a lot of classes, a lot of types of within, like for example swimming, there are like 14 types of different categories. That's the name, categories for swimming, for disabled swimming.
Vale, son 14 clases de discapacidad y luego cada clase tiene pues todas las pruebas de natación.
There are 14 types of disabilities, and within those 14 types you have all the different swimming competitions.
Esto hace muy complicado, primero que tú te entiendas, que tú lo comprendas, pero después contárselo también a la gente, ¿no? Al público.
This is really, really hard, first of all, for us to understand what are the different classes, what are the things that are required to win. But it's really difficult to, after learning it, to explain it to the people that are watching the sport.
Y esto hace que las competiciones, en el caso de la natación, yo estoy acostumbrada a la natación convencional, que dura hora y media, 2 horas, las finales a hacer la natación paralímpica, por ejemplo, que son 4 y 5 horas de competición.
And I'm used to a competition, the conventional competition that usually takes like 1 hour, 2 hours, and then you find the Paralympic competition which takes around 4 hours or 5 hours of competition.
Si tenemos 50 libre, campeones 50 libre, pues tienes tropecientos campeones. Es decir, esto es muy difícil de que la gente lo pueda entender, porque estamos acostumbrados al deporte convencional, que hay un campeón de los 100 libres, por ejemplo, en atletismo, de los 100 lisos, 1. Pero es que en el deporte adaptado, pues tenemos 10 fáciles.
So it is really, really difficult to explain that, as you know, in conventional sport there is just one winner, for example, in the 100 meters run in athletics, but then in disabled athletics, in the Paralympic Games, you might have 10 winners, or 20, because there are 10 or 20 categories within that competition.
Bueno, pues os cuento todo esto para que veáis que no es fácil.
As you can see, this is not easy at all to inform.
Vale, que tienes que ir superando muchas barreras, que no lo puedes hacer solo, que esto es un camino que tiene que hacer el deporte paralímpico, el Comité Paralímpico Internacional.
There are a lot of barriers that you have to overcome, but you cannot do it alone. You need to do it in hand by hand with the International Paralympic Committee.
Claro, porque si quieres informar, primero tienes que tener acceso a la información. Las redes sociales ayudan muchísimo, el streaming, el poder mirar, el poder hablar personalmente con los deportistas. Esas son nuestras fuentes de información, pero tiene que haber más. Las federaciones tienen que trabajar para generar información, para que el periodista se pueda especializar, porque ese es el otro gran problema, ¿no? La falta de especialización en el deporte paralímpico. Hablo de España.
So in order to inform, you need to first get information, know what you're talking about. So this is thanks to social media, to the internet. It's not that difficult today, but you need more information. You need information that is done by the federations, because a thing that happens with Paralympic Games, Paralympic sports, is that there's no focus of journalists and sport, that you can find commentaries that in the Olympic Games are just focused, for example, on swimming, but in Paralympic Games they can do swimming or athletics because they are not specialized on that particular sport, because there's not enough information in order to become specialized in that sport.
En estos momentos en España, como decía, estamos en un proceso de normalización del deporte paralímpico. Mi empresa sigue bueno, gracias a alianzas, a acuerdos que tiene con el Comité Paralímpico Español, con federaciones, bueno, pues está también mostrando la realidad del deporte paralímpico fuera de los Juegos Paralímpicos, que, como decía, no tiene nada que ver. Es más fácil informar fuera de acontecimientos que no, en mi caso, que soy comentarista, pues comentar durante 5 horas natación o atletismo adaptado en estas circunstancias que os estoy contando. Es más sencillo hacer una información sobre historias personales, que es lo que estamos dando ahora, sobre todo en los telediarios, en los informativos, que no hacer retransmisiones deportivas de larga duración con esos problemas.
And right now in Spain we're trying to normalize and to equalize the Olympic sports with the Paralympic ones. But it's much more easier for us to tell a personal story. For example, in the news every day about a Paralympic athlete or small particular competitions, that to be part of the commentaries of a 5 hours competition, because it's not that personal and you're not gonna know who's actually the one participating as much as you will telling a personal story in a more specialized program.
Bueno, ya para concluir, pues decir que es necesaria una especialización en el deporte paralímpico. Para eso necesitamos herramientas para podernos especializar, que me gustaría ver periodistas con discapacidad también trabajando. Bueno, aquí tenemos el caso de Luis o Isabel, su compañera en el Comité Paralímpico, pero saliendo del Comité Paralímpico no encuentras periodistas con discapacidad cuando los hay. Quiero verlos porque ellos nos muestran otra visión del deporte paralímpico.
I think the way to go is for journalists to become specialized in a particular Paralympic sport. And in order to do so, as we said, we need more information, especially starting from the federations, and we're actually working on that. But also, it would be really great to have more disabled journalists that help us broadcast, because their vision, what they are, is more impactful, is different that a non-disabled journalist can give the audience.
En España se sigue haciendo información paralímpica, pero enfocada en la superación, el esfuerzo, las historias personales, que son tremendas. Todos los deportistas paralímpicos tienen historias impresionantes, y estamos ahí, y yo creo que hay que dar un paso más.
In Spain, when the Paralympic Games are not taking place, we focus on giving information about personal stories, about effort of those particular Paralympic athletes, which they have a really impactful story, life story, but I think we need to go a step further.
Hay que dejar, desde mi punto de vista, de poner el foco en la discapacidad, que sí, es obvio, se ve, está, pero no hay que estar constantemente mostrando esa discapacidad y intentar ver deporte. Llegar a ver un deporte sin adjetivos, dejar de llamarle deporte paralímpico. Para mí es natación. Cuando hago natación, da igual si estoy haciendo la natación convencional o la olímpica, como si estoy haciendo la natación paralímpica.
We need to stop thinking about Paralympic sports as sports with disabilities. We need to stop thinking about, oh, it's the basketball with wheelchairs. It's just basketball. It doesn't matter if it's with wheelchairs or without wheelchairs. We need to arrive to that point that the thing you're focused on is watching sport, watching basketball, watching the game, not watching the wheelchair, which is that adjective that we need to get rid of.
Pues básicamente es eso, esa es mi experiencia. Yo apuesto firmemente por el deporte paralímpico, pero como deporte. O sea, yo quiero ver deporte porque el deporte paralímpico a mí me ha emocionado, y me ha emocionado como deporte y como deportistas. Tiene el extra de tener historias personales tremendas y brutales, y eso lo tiene que aprovechar el deporte paralímpico, pero no se tiene que quedar ahí, tiene que dar un paso más, y lo que tenemos que normalizar también es la competición deportiva. Yo acabo de comentar hace unos meses el Campeonato del Mundo de Natación Paralímpica, y para nada me he fijado en la discapacidad, ni he hablado de discapacidad, he hablado de natación, he hablado de nadadores, de deportistas, de competición, de carreras. Me he levantado de la silla, porque a mí la natación me levanta de la silla. Y eso es lo que quiero. Yo quiero que el deporte paralímpico o convencional me emocione para poder yo emocionar también a los espectadores. Y creo que ese es el gran reto que tiene por delante el deporte paralímpico. Perdona.
No te preocupes. That has been my experience, as I have told you, and as we just said, I think that I just recently, I was part of the commentaries for the World Paralympic swimming competition. And I was not seeing a Paralympic sport. I was just seeing sport. That's the point we need to reach, that it's not someone disabled, it's someone which is swimming. And that's the point we need to reach. And I feel really passionate about sport. I don't care if it's Olympic, Paralympic, it's the same, it's just sport. And we need to be emotional about seeing sport, not seeing, as we just said, someone in a wheelchair. It's just sport.
Y ya para concluir, que yo creo que es necesaria las alianzas con los comités, con las federaciones, para seguir apostando por el deporte paralímpico, porque como ya decía, en España no hay interés como deporte, sino que se ve como algo que hay que apoyar. Pero yo pongo en valor ese deporte porque lo he visto en las competiciones deportivas. Pero apuesto por la inclusión, por el deporte inclusivo que vamos a oír ahora, esa nueva evolución, ese nuevo paso que tiene que dar el deporte paralímpico, ese deporte inclusivo y, por supuesto, por un deporte sin adjetivos.
So I think it's really important, the alliances between the different federations. As we just said, the end goal is to have just one federation per sport. And also the sponsors are really important, but at the moment the sponsors are only focused on making social good and not on the sports, which it's not bad. At the moment it's good, but at the end point what we want to reach is that any sponsor is sponsoring the sport, which is the ultimate goal, to make equal the Olympic and the Paralympic sports, which is the same. That's it.
Pues ya está, gracias.
Thank you so much.
Me llevo el agua.
Thank you very much, Cecilia, for such an interesting presentation of your personal experience, for sharing and identifying very clearly all the barriers that we need to take into consideration and also the important challenges that still need to be addressed. And I'm taking your idea about the importance of alliances. I think it's very important to consider all the different actors that come into cooperation, very close cooperation when we talk about Paralympic sports. And definitely companies joining this field with their help for Paralympic athletes to sponsor their activity is the most important. And I have a pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Yolanda Puno. It's a brief presentation. She's the Chief Sustainability and Corporate Affairs Officer at Sanitas Foundation. Sanitas, as I told you, is one of the most important health insurance companies belonging to Dubai, Europe, and Yolanda is also a member of the Executive Committee of Dubai, Europe, and Latin America. And she's been in the field of communication, CCR, sponsorship, public affairs of this company for a crazy time already. She has a degree in journalism, so we are communicators here today, and masters in international trade from the University of Navarra, Spain. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. I'm going to play the video, right, to start, or if you want to.
Well, I wanted to thank you, first of all, for inviting me and my company to these wonderful sessions. And I'm going to talk about my personal story and our company's story. No? Better? No? Doesn't work? Now? Yeah, okay. So thank you, Olga, and the organizers of this session. So very pleased to be here with you today. And before we play this video, just introducing what we are going to talk about is my personal and my company's story of a discovery of inclusive sports. So that will come later. But first, we're going to watch our involvement with Paralympic sports. So as I think now it's working. So this is a video that recaps the latest renewal event of our commitment with the Olympic and Paralympic teams. This was shot 4 weeks ago. And as you see, we are, of course, sponsors of the Paralympic and the Olympic teams, the national teams. Whenever we do any event related to our commitment with them, we join forces. We do all the events together, and Luis is very aware of this because he has been accompanying us in this journey for a long, long time. So who is Sanitas? Sanitas is a healthcare company, as Olga was introducing. We do health insurance, and we do have a big network of hospitals and medical centers. And our involvement with sports it has a long track record. We've been sponsoring sports organizations for more than 20 years. And the reason why we do this is because when you think of sport, you think of health immediately, and we are all for promoting health. That's the reason why we have been involved with sponsoring and being official medical providers for Real Madrid football club and basketball teams. Also, we are supporting the national football team. The National Federation of Football, the Olympic and Paralympic teams as well. And also we do have a group of sports men and women called Equipo Sanitas team, with individual sports people, athletes, backing our activities. So you have seen some of them there. We have Saul Cravioto, for example. We have Sara Andres, who was here yesterday. We have Sergio Yul, for example, and Eva Moral, who is also a triathlete. So we are all for backing health and promoting health among our customers and non-customers, and for that reason we support sports. We started with the Real Madrid. That was our first sponsorship agreement, and then we realized the second one was Paralympic team. So we went from a massive club, worldwide known with a big brand, and we wanted to support next a team that represented, as Luis was very rightfully pointing out, positive values, effort, courage, ability to convey the purity of the values of sports. So we started with that relationship in 2008. Those were our first games in Beijing, and it has been a very fruitful relationship since then. And the commitment with the Olympic team came afterwards, and I'll explain that a little later. And we backed the Paralympic team. We have gone a long time with them, and we do all sorts of, we have assets, we have Paralympic athletes accompanying us in terms of events, clinical checkups. Also we support their medical team because we are an official medical provider. We are not just putting our logo behind whatever they do. We are involved in taking care of the health of the athletes. So that's very important for us. That category of sponsorship is our territory, is where we want to play. And then, because I was going to talk about a story, I met this other person, Javier Pérez Tejero. So I met Luis and I met Javier Pérez Tejero with the difference of a few months. And he taught me about a different story. He taught me about inclusion. So I was acquainted, not knowledgeable, but acquainted with the Paralympic sports, and he talked to me about inclusion in sports. And that blew out my mind, and it was an eye-opener for me. So his thesis and his position is like, we need to make adapted sports expand. We need to take that further. We need to educate in physical sports in an inclusive manner. We need to make it wider, well-known, and bigger. And so we decided we had a foundation in our company, because that's important. I work for Sanitas, the company, which is part of BUPA, a global healthcare organization, and I also work in the Sanitas Foundation. The sponsorship is not in the foundation. It's a commercial business decision. That's very important. We don't do it because we want to be nice. We do it because it pays off for our purpose, okay? So that's important. It is what is going to make this sustainable in the long run. Otherwise, these type of projects, if they don't have if they are not rooted in a commercial and business decision, they won't last. So that's something I wanted to make clear. But as I was saying, we have also a corporate foundation. And we decided we wanted to do more. And we started funding the Inclusive Sports Studies Center that Javier Pérez Tejero leads since then on. And in the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, the Polytechnic University of Madrid, in the Faculty of Sports and Physical Activity. Over the years, we grew and we created a chair, a university chair, to deepen our knowledge, deepen the scientific research on inclusive sports. And in 2010, we decided we wanted to involve many other players, because inclusion in sports is not a matter of one organization or one team or one club. It's a joint effort of many, many players. And we are a healthcare company. We are not a sports club. We are not a specialist in disability. We are just a healthcare company. We offer to be the glue to join them all. And we created an alliance, the Strategic Alliance for Inclusive Sports, and we had as main members the High Council of Sports, the government of Spain, the Agency for Sports of the government of Spain. We have the Olympic team. To be true, the Paralympic team was first, and then the Olympic team joined afterwards. And then we have the Real Madrid Foundation. We have the Fundación Once, the foundation of the Once Blind Association, Telemadrid, the Madrid regional public broadcaster, and the mayor, the Town Hall of Madrid, the Council of Madrid, and the regional government of Madrid, because we wanted to focus on Madrid. This team, together with other collaborators such as Fundación También and the CERMI, Council for Disability, and the Real Patronato de Discapacidad, another government agency, they have accompanied us since then on, because we want their backing, their support, and also they are the ones who, show us the way. We put the money, we put the thinking, and we put the marketing and the communication effort to make visible to society that inclusion is possible. First, inclusion is better for society. It makes our society fairer. It promotes equality, and it promotes also opportunities for children who will become in the future either sports in their professional life, sports practitioners or athletes, or maybe they will be communicators, or they will be teachers or whatever. But also it will provide them an opportunity to have more social integration opportunities, to have a richer life. So with the Paralympic team, we have done a very successful training program for teachers in schools, in primary and schools, to train the teachers that teach physical education in an inclusive fashion, in an inclusive model. So this triangle here, it's very important for what we have been doing in this time. Also, we are now promoting the championships of school age sports in Spain, run by the government, but now we have 9 sports who do inclusive finals. So that's really key, because it's it is in the official calendar of competitions of youngsters that they have the opportunity to have inclusive finals. What does this mean is that conventional sports, be that swimming, for example, adapted swimming, and then they have their own finals, and then at the end of that, these sessions, they have an inclusive final. And there are official inclusive champions of swimming, for example. We have 9 sports in that modality: swimming, tennis, swimming, table tennis, track athletics, cross country, wheelchair basketball, rugby, judo, and badminton. I think that's all. I'm looking at Mario, who is also another partner in crime in the foundation work. And then we wanted to do more. And so last year we celebrated, at the end of the Olympic and Paralympic cycle, we organized the first inclusive games in history, and that happened in Madrid. And there we had 9 sports, the same sports I have mentioned, plus taekwondo. And we had the Olympic and Paralympic athletes who went to Tokyo. They came and competed together in those inclusive games. Radio Televisión Española, Julia's public TV station, also joined forces. They are a member of the Alliance now. They broadcasted the event, and we had the pleasure to have Julia, together with other wonderful commenters and journalists, broadcast the whole event. They were competing together. They had championships together. They had their marks, and they are of marks that have been done according to official regulations created for the occasion. So this is our story, the story of our discovery from Paralympic, from promoting sports, from promoting Paralympic sports to inclusion. We do that in the business, and we do that with the backing of the foundation. It's not possible to do this on our own. It's a joint effort. The Alliance is very important. You were mentioning that before, Olga. And I want to remind you of the words by Julia. Sports with no adjectives. Sports will be inclusive. It is already in the way to being inclusive, and we want to talk about sports, full stop. So that's our story. Thank you so much. I think we have another video now with the Inclusive Games story. Before I leave the floor, I wanted to also thank the federations, the sports federations. I mean, these games were done because the 9 sports federations and the 5 adapted sports federations were committed to making this a reality, to work together with the chair, the university chair, to create the official regulations and the rulings of the sports. And without their commitment and those of the athletes themselves, it wouldn't have happened. So I wanted to mention that. Thank you.
For sharing your personal past discovery of the Paralympic sports, and also for the contribution to making barrier-free sports and barrier-free society through education, through visibility, and through your permanent support. Thank you. And our last presenter, who has been already introduced by Yolanda, Javier Pérez Tejero. You decide where you want to stay. Yeah, it works also. So Javier Pérez Tejero, he's a professor. We are turning to a more academic field right now. He's a professor of health and human performance and faculty of physical activity and sports sciences in the Polytechnic University in Madrid. He's in the core of the Paralympic sports area in Madrid, close to the Paralympic Committee, right? He's the head of Sanita's Foundation Chair that Yolanda has been mentioning before on inclusive studies. He's also a lead researcher of a series of international research projects, and he's also president of the European Federation for the Adapted Physical Activity and board member of the National Spanish Association of Sports Sciences. And in addition, he's a basketball player, he was a coach, right? A wheelchair basketball national and international coach. So amazing multidisciplinary experience. Thank you very much for being with us today here.
Thank you to you, Olga. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. I don't know. Morning, afternoon. Anyhow, thank you very much. Do you have to pass the slides? And really, thank you for your invitation to you and your colleagues, and also to be really happy being here in the academia, in the Universidad Complutense, because I think this is a marvelous place where to share knowledge, experiences with people like you, that you are probably finishing your bachelor or your PhD, so you have lots of ideas and inspiration. By the way, may I ask you, every one of you, your name and your bachelor degree? Each of you, for example. No, I'm just kidding. Just wanted to take some of your attention before my starting. But just to point out that this is a multidisciplinary forum. People from communication and journalists, people from
philosophy, law studies,
design.
Communication, architecture, right?
So I think.
No one is an expert in the Paralympic field, but we want to plant seeds.
But this is what academia has, and that's why we're here. And it's important, in my opinion, to have people who are motivated in how to promote opportunities, for example, for people with a disability, in how to use their leisure time, in how to use their opportunities in life. So I think with this atmosphere, I think this is really enrichful, and many ideas can come. And in my personal experience, this one, in my case, being in the faculty and to have the opportunity to share practice with the wheelchair basketball team, and it was like, wow, I am from basketball, but I have no clue about wheelchair basketball. What is this? And it was fantastic, and it was a completely different sport. So I became in love, and I started to ask, and became physical trainer, coach, and I have to say thank you to many people. I have to say thank you to Luis, of course, for giving me the opportunity to be in Paralympic Games as a technical commentator in Rio de Janeiro and also in Tokyo. Well, not in Tokyo, we were in San Cugat, but and to have the opportunity to talk about your sport in such a way. I was a technical commentator together with Pera Ferreras, you may remember him. And it was completely different approach than being a coach. And I was in London also in the bench of the national male team. And it was the first time after 1996 that the team returned to the Paralympics. And it was a really special moment for our sport. So being the bench, nothing to do, that having the microphone. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. And also, of course, Yolanda, thank you for your passion and your opportunities and your ongoing support for the very first moment. And I have to say, already this week, 15 years ago, that we were organizing the summer camp, summer course in La Granja de San Ildefonso. So thank you for being a leader on that, and to see the opportunity of inclusion in the sport. Also to you and your team, thank you, Mario, for making the everyday work more easy for us at the university. So I would like to start with, we're talking here today about communication. So to communicate, we need information, yes? So for all of you, to have a clear picture of what is in Spain sport and physical activity for people with disabilities, you may go and see this book. And Luis was the one who was coordinating work of authors and experts, and I'm glad that I was part of this team. And it was a really nice picture of what is sport is structured, how sport is provided, which are the main actors, what are their challenges, and what is the future. So this is a milestone for us, and indeed next Monday the book and the authors will receive the National Award for Sport. So here's the information, right? So it's open access. So just some facts about disability in Spain. Olga, do you have the oh yeah. Does it work? Okay, so you go. Okay. So we have, yes, please. So some information about disability in Spain. We have almost 4 million people with a disability in Spain. And this is the main causes of disabilities is mobility problems, difficulties in domestic life and self-care. And the half part of these people are aged, more than 65. And when you ask them about how they would like to use their leisure time, they say physical activity and sport. So I like this picture because it's a picture from our Inclusive Sport Week in 2011, and there is a joint practice between people with spinal cord injury from the Spinal Cord Injury Foundation in Madrid, together with a mainstream rugby club, just enjoying wheelchair rugby. Wheelchair rugby at that time, it was not practiced in our country, and it was the seed to create a new possibility of practice in this arena. So now we have a national cup. We have some teams in Spain. So now we have another possibility of practice for those with severe physical disabilities. So this is an example of some key facts. You can go for all of them. I will go for a run. So the general population in Spain to practice physical activity is something normal, but not for people with these disabilities. We don't have data on that, on the level of the habits, the sport habits of people with disabilities in Spain. We don't know. We also have to say that around 10% of the population in Spain, they have a sport license, but only 0.3 of people with disabilities they have. And of those 13,000 people with a disability who are practicing sport in a sport model way, only 1/4 of them are women. So there is a double discrimination here because of the disability and because being woman. And as you said, we have Paralympic sport has a really strong recognition in Spanish society, as Luis was mentioning, and still we have people who are practicing sport with disability in Spain. They are a little bit aged, so we need programs for promoting sport for people with disabilities in school ages. And sport processes and integration processes are perceived as positive in our countries. Can you please go? So I won't go very in deep on that, but I would like just to reinforce the idea of first evolution that Yolanda was presenting. And I would like to say that it was in 2009 that this center was created. And just 1 year after the Alliance, and I'm missing here, Mario, the Alliance, the Strategic Alliance for Inclusive Sport, that was renewed in 2019, where these first inclusive sport games were created. And when preparing my little speech today, I have doubts in what to emphasize, and I say, well, let's go for the first inclusive games as a really milestone in our evolution. So the idea that we were sharing with these institutions were that the joint practice of people with and without disabilities has value itself, because normally, as we said, people with disability, they face limitations in their access to participation in a sport. So it means that something had to change in the rules to allow participation in an equal situation. So this idea can be easy to understand, but sometimes it's difficult to put in action, especially when institutions are dealing with the book of the rules or my rules, so which are really respectful, but why not to use it to promote participation of those that can enjoy your sport. So we also say that inclusion in sport is always an attitude to the sport phenomena for those also with a disability. So we started a 2-year accompaniment process with these 14 sport federations, 5 sport federations of people with disability, and 9 sport federations. And after that, Inclusive Sport Week in 2019, we started to talk to them, to sit down with them, and to think about how can we adapt your rules and your competition system, which is really important. I mean, it's not only a question of the rules, it's the system of the competitions that you are choosing to let's say, to present your modality to those that will enjoy them. So we stated with these institutions clear principles in order to provide inclusive competition. So these principles were perceived by the sport federations, who are the ones who are responsible for a given sport, to say, okay, I have to take this into consideration for not making a modification that will lead in another different sport. So security is important, as you saw in the video. We try to provide full participation of those participating in those enjoying the competition. We have to respect the sport essence. We cannot change and to create a new sport. We have to really to be inspired about which is Paralympic sport. And we have to look for the equity in the competition and to try to provide opportunities for all the functional profiles, also those with severe disabilities in general. And in this journey, it was nice to sit with journalists from different, from Fundación Sanitas was really taking care about the message and trying to give tools to those enjoying the game, especially those who has to talk about what is inclusion in sport and to talk about the competition. And that's why we were, sorry for not being translated, but this decalogue in order to how to communicate in an inclusive way. And for example, just to use the person first principle, just to talk about the people or person with a disability and not disabled. And this is important. This is said by the Health World Organization, not us, that disability is a health condition. Okay, we cannot label people. Yes, we have first person and then the disability. Or for example, to avoid the negative terms that people suffer for the disability or he is confined in a wheelchair. So let's be neutral in the speech. Yes, can you please go? And also some just to reinforce, for example, in the ability and not the disability, and to show the sport and not what is the history behind, which is important also. But let's focus on the sport. So just to think about the legacy in the future is that we were asking sportmen and women participating in the games and also the federations what they were their perception about the event itself that you saw in the picture. So, and the perception in general was really good. Of course, there are things that must be improved, but they were pointing out the recognition of the competition as an opportunity to present what every group can achieve when staying together in the competition. And as Yolanda was saying, already 4 sport federations now this year has been including official competition not only in school age, but at, let's say, professional or senior level. And now just looking forward for the celebration of the second inclusive sport game in 2024 with the scope of Paris. And this is what I wanted to share with you today. So thank you for your attention.